How can a hospitality disaster completely change your approach to wine and wine service? When do wine tasting notes become so over the top they stop meaning anything? And what makes natural wine like an unfiltered snapshot of a single moment? In today's episode, you'll hear the stories and tips that answer those questions in our chat with Maryse Chevriere, author of the terrific new book, How to Sound Wine Smart. By the end of our conversation, you'll also discover why wine education needs more humor and plain language, what finally convinced Maryse to move from food writing into the wine world, why working in a wine shop is as much about listening as it is about recommending, why underdog grapes like Riesling and Chenin Blanc are some of Maryse's favorites, how a wine bar bathroom wallpaper eventually led to Maryse's book deal, why she describes a loud wine as one of her favorite tasting terms, and why sweet is one of the most misunderstood words in wine. Do you have a thirst to learn about wine? Do you love stories about wonderfully obsessive people, hauntingly beautiful places, and amusingly awkward social situations? Well, that's the blend here on the Unreserved Wine Talk podcast. I'm your host, Natalie McLean, and each week I share with you unfiltered conversations with celebrities in the wine world, as well as confessions from my own tipsy journey as I write my third book on this subject. I'm so glad you're here. Now pass me that bottle, please, and let's get started. Welcome to episode 403. So what's new in the drinks world? Well, this week in fur, feathers, and fermentation, certain species of butterflies, such as the red admirals and commas, love to party. They routinely bypass fresh flowers in favor of fermenting fruit juices. Because their bodies are so small, the ethanol impacts their nervous systems almost instantly, making them lose their defensive reflexes entirely. Drunk butterflies can be seen flying in clumsy, sluggish, slow-motion loops, and they become so intensely relaxed and disinhibited by the alcohol that humans can easily walk right up to them and gently pick them up directly off the fruit by hand. Though, of course, you want to be kind, and even better, just let them sleep it off in a field somewhere. Adventurous wine lovers with valid scuba diving certifications can explore a submerged cellar located 14 meters beneath the surface of the Adriatic Sea. Near the town of Drace, the Edivo Vina winery ages its local Plavik-Mali red grapes inside traditional clay amphorae that are secured within a sunken sailing ship. The bottles spend over 700 days underwater, where the constant cool temperatures and the gentle swaying of the sea currents help mature the liquid while preventing oxygen exposure. When the bottles are finally retrieved by divers, the exteriors are covered in seashells and coral, while the wine inside carries a distinct sea salt tinge developed during its long marine slumber. A hot spring theme park located in the mountains of Hakone, Japan, allows bathers to submerge their entire bodies into a giant pool filled with warm red wine. The spa features a specialized outdoor bath where natural hot spring water is mixed with real red wine, dominated by a massive 3.6 meter tall novelty wine bottle that towers over the swimmers. Several times each day, spa employees perform a live show where they spray the soaking guests with fresh bottles of wine, creating an aromatic experience meant to mimic the ancient beauty rituals of historical queens. While the grape-colored waters are highly praised for their skin-softening benefits, patrons are strictly forbidden from drinking directly out of the pool for obvious sanitary reasons. It is best, they say, to bring your own clean glass to sip poolside from wine poured directly from the bottle. Engineers at the University of Glasgow, Scotland, have developed an artificial tongue made of nanotechnology that can taste the difference between genuine and counterfeit spirits. Led by researcher Alistair Clark, the device consists of 2 million submicroscopic metallic taste buds made of gold and aluminum, arranged in a tight checkerboard pattern that is 500 times smaller than a human hair. When a liquid like a single malt scotch is poured over the surface, a specialized spectrometer measures how the nanometals scatter and absorb light frequencies to create a unique chemical fingerprint. The digital tongue achieved over 99% accuracy in distinguishing between famous distillery brands, and it can even identify the exact age of a spirit or determine whether the whiskey was matured in a rum or brandy cask. And for your calendar this week, August 19th is National Potato Day and the birthday of Prohibition. Potatoes have long supplied starch for vodka production, although most vodka today is made from grains. August 19th is also sometimes called the birthday of Prohibition because the 18th Amendment took effect in the U.S. in 1920, reshaping drinking culture for more than a decade. August 20th is National Lemonade Day and National Wine Fridge Day. Lemonade was popularized by traveling Paris street vendors in the 1830s who sold a chilled mixture of lemon juice, honey, and sparkling water. Some calendars also call August 20th Wine Fridge Day, a playful tribute to the dedicated wine coolers now appearing in home kitchens and cellars. August 21st is National Sweet Tea Day and Pre-Crush Season. One of the earliest published sweet tea recipes appeared in an 1879 cookbook and called for green tea boiled with white sugar. August 21st also falls near the start of harvest preparations in some early ripening wine regions when wineries begin berry sampling, pre-crush tastings, and vineyard checks. August 22nd is National Eat a Peach Day and Summer Distillery Release Weekend. Peaches belong to the same botanical family as almonds, which helps explain why peach and almond flavors work so well together. August 22nd also aligns with the summer release weekends at North American craft distilleries when limited cask-strength bottles appear before the fall season. August 23rd is last day of summer cocktail promotions. Retailers and bars sometimes use this day for last day of summer cocktail promotions, and the idea is to try to stretch patio season before menus start filling with apples, cinnamon, and emotional support knitwear. August 24th is National Waffle Day and Fall Drinks Preview Season. National Waffle Day marks the anniversary of Cornelius Swarthout's 1869 American patent for a waffle iron. Many Canadian wineries and distilleries are also previewing their fall programs, harvest events, and September releases. August 25th is National Banana Split Day, National Whiskey Sour Day, and End of Summer Flights. The banana split is generally credited to apprentice pharmacist David Strickler, who created the dessert in Pennsylvania in 1904. National Whiskey Sour Day honors a drink formerly recorded in Jerry Thomas's 1862 book, The Bartender's Guide, although sailors had mixed spirits with citrus juice long before that. Bars and breweries can also use August 25th for end-of-summer flights and limited pours before autumn menus arrive. Back to today's episode, 3 of you will win a copy of Maryse's wonderful new book, How to Sound Wine Smart. If you'd like to win a copy, please email me and let me know you'd like to win. It doesn't matter where you lived. I'll choose 3 winners randomly from those who contact me at natalie@nataliemaclean.com. And if you're reading the paperback or ebook or listening to the audiobook of my memoir, Wine Witch on Fire, Rising from the Ashes of Divorce, Defamation, and Drinking Too Much, a national bestseller and one of Amazon's best books of the year, I'd love to hear from you at natalie@nataliemaclean.com. There's a terrific free guide for book clubs. I'll put a link in the show notes to all retailers worldwide at nataliemaclean.com/403. Okay, on with the show. Maryse Chevriere is a writer, wine professional, and illustrator living in Boston, Massachusetts. A certified sommelier, her career in wine has spanned across New York City, San Francisco, and Boston, where she has held roles as a retail consultant, restaurant wine director, and distribution sales representative. Maryse's truly witty and whimsical Drunk Doodles have been published in print and online in Bon Appetit magazine, Food and Wine Enthusiast, and others. Her Instagram account, and you'll want to bookmark this, at Fresh Cut Garden Hose, was honored with the prestigious James Beard Award in the category of humor and nominated as a finalist for an IACP Digital Media Award. Maryse is a fervent proponent of living life glass half full, or at least she says, and maybe all the way full some
days.
days. Yeah, exactly. And believes that learning and talking about wine should be accessible and as fun as drinking it is. And she joins us now from her home in Boston. Welcome, Maryse. We're so glad to have you here with us.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited.
All right, cool. So let's start with maybe one of your most memorable or mortifying wine moment when you were either a sommelier or wine director. You were working in a restaurant. Maybe tell us about that.
Yeah, I was working in San Francisco at a restaurant called Petite Crenne. It was Dominique Crenne's tasting menu restaurant that was homage to her home of Brittany. It was like at the height of when the Chef's Table came out. She's always super popular, but we had booked out a private wedding reception. A big deal, very important day for these folks. And I've had the brilliant idea of wanting to surprise them with a little splash of rosé champagne. And instead of using common sense and setting the glasses down and pouring for everyone, I poured all the glasses on the tray, picked up the tray and decided to try and hand them out. And as somebody was grabbing for one, trying to talk to me, the whole tray of 20 glasses fell. Smashed onto the bride, her brother, her husband, everyone in front of my boss, Dominique Crenn, who was there also just to make sure things were going smoothly, and they didn't. It's a good lesson, a good reminder not to take yourself too seriously, which is my whole ethos in wine.
I love that. And I love you're humble enough to admit this incident in public. Yeah. So that must be something. The bride you gave them a story to dine out on for years, I'm sure.
Yeah, it's like rain on your wedding day. After they dry clean the dress. Maybe champagne down your dress. Who knows?
That's great. Oh my goodness. So tell us in a nutshell what this book is about and maybe how it's different from other books, wine books.
So the book, I don't know if it's okay, I can show it.
Yes, please do. And we'll link to it for those who are just listening. Yes, lovely cover.
Essentially, it's an illustrated glossary for wine tasting note terms. And I think tasting notes, wine terminology, the lingo, if ever in a book about wine, is just like the back few pages of a textbook kind of tome. And when I really didn't want to do a textbook, big, deep dive kind of wine book, I wanted something that was just fun to flip through if you're into wine, new, like a little bit more advanced, that it could grab you, or even if you just like looking at the pictures, it would be something fun, coffee table-esque to just show that wine is a little bit more accessible. And I think also the lingo is the great barrier. I mean, with wine specifically, but any number of topics, it's a thing like, well, I don't feel comfortable saying I don't speak the language. And this is the idea, is to help you feel a little bit more comfortable speaking the language.
Absolutely. And it does that in a marvelous way. Now, for those just listening, they can't get a sense of your drawings. I have to buy the book, of course, but it's so whimsical. How would you describe your style of illustrating? Can you compare it to something they might have seen before? I know you're unique in the world.
No, I can draw, but I always say that it's very simple. It's my little character is a little line-drawn man.
They're so cute.
There's not really detail. So it's just very simple, very stark, more a play on just the pun of the words. And I will do I used to only do just one pop of color, and then I've expanded since then. But I think I would say my little dude kind of looks like the Keith Haring kind of drawings. Like, I don't know.
The what, sorry? Keith Haring?
Yeah, I think would be probably the closest that I can. I'm trying to think. It's an artist, but he makes very simple characters that have a similar kind of look, just a line drawn kind of person with a round kind of head. And I saw that, and I was like, they're great. To my guy. I think I got the name.
But you're so fun the way you put him in big wine glasses or pile on fruit, and it's hard to describe, so truly you have to get the book. But all right, so what was the most surprising insight you discovered while writing your book or illustrating it?
Not necessarily surprising, but like the biggest reminder was just how much of a Pandora's box wine is. I think I was saying, I set out to really not make it super text heavy, and I would write something and realize I can't say this without explaining that. And so I do include like some mini deep dives, like little 101 sections throughout the book to support things that are maybe that need a little bit more explanation. But it's just, wine it's just such a complex and vast topic.
It was a good That's reminder. Why you get Jancis Robinson with her annual edition of 800,000 words or whatever it is, exactly. The Oxford Companion to Wine.
Exactly.
But yeah, I empathize. Yeah, that would be a challenge. And So that's the most challenging thing. But now you got into wine reluctantly after 4 years of food and beverage writing. What was the moment that kind of converted you?
So yeah, I've been covering beverages, food and beverages in general for this startup food website in New York. And I had an assignment to go interview this bartender at a wine bar called Terroir. And just in speaking with him, it was like maybe a half an hour kind of interview, not even that much time, but the way he spoke about wine was so different than anything I'd ever thought about it as. He was so excited about it. He made his job sound so fun.
Ah,
And it really made me feel like you can learn so much reading and writing about it. But I think I personally also am just like the best learner by doer. And a couple months later, I was like, are you guys hiring? And ended up getting a job at a new branch that they were opening.
oh, that's great. Do you recall his name?
His name is Tanner Wally. He and his, I think, believe now wife have a really cool wine bar in Northern California called Valley Bar and Bottle that I haven't been to, but I've heard is amazing.
Okay.
Yeah.
Huh. Great. I have to put that on my to-do list for both cities. Now, you also worked as a harvest cellar intern in Alsace in France. What's the smell or sound maybe from that cellar that you still pull up when you're trying to explain maybe what natural wine means to a skeptic?
The smell that I will always think of from that cellar is the smell of Gewürztraminer. I feel like it's a very aromatic wine, but I feel like I will never get that wrong in a blind. It was just, I think they were doing their first attempt at making an orange wine from it. And it was just sitting in there fermenting, and the whole place just smelled like roses. And I was like, oh,
Oh,
that's
wow.
it. The Gewürztraminer, that I will always associate that smell with that. And it was just such a cool place, and it definitely wasn't like I was smelling oak or other other things. It was just kind of like the wine as it was. And he was a great proponent of, they were natural, biodynamic, but I love that he was very much not super woo-woo about it. He was,
And it can get off the deep end on
yeah,
the woo-woo
yeah,
side. Yeah. Yeah. And then you've also described natural wine as wine without lipstick, I think it
without
was.
makeup
Was
on.
it something like that? Without makeup
Yeah.
on. That's a neat way to put it. Maybe expand on that for people who aren't as familiar with natural wine.
I think the goal with natural wine is to just be the clearest picture, the clearest picture of the grapes, the vineyard, the place of that moment. So it's if you just took a photo and you didn't put a filter on it, and that photo was the wine that you're drinking. That's my interpretation of natural wine. And it can go in a million different directions. It's tricky because there's no actual definition of it and 100 other things. But I just think for me, they're some of the most exciting, interesting, kind of fun wines to drink right now.
That's another great metaphor, no filters. Now, your jobs since then have included retail consultant and distribution sales rep in Boston. Which of those jobs was either hardest to do or hardest on the ego, or maybe you could share a story from either position that might illustrate what it was like to do one of those jobs?
I mean, in terms of ego, try not to have ego and try not to, what I want to drink is not necessarily what somebody else is going to want to drink. So be open-minded. But retail is really tough. And I was working in the financial district location of a great wine shop in Boston. And you would get the bros that would come in with their expense account and want to just get a wine because it was from a certain region or a certain grape and hit a certain price point. And that can be just a little disheartening. It's like you're not really able to have that conversation. But if that's what somebody wants, it's what somebody wants. That's great. And you just kind of wait for the people that do want to geek out, nerd out with you and talk and actually have a little bit more of an exchange, because that's really what makes that job fun.
Absolutely. Yeah, I remember talking to staff at local wine shops here, and they said, we have the best job in retail because you're selling your passion if you're into wine, of course. Yeah.
You
It's
get to
great.
try so much. You're going to meet people. It's great.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Now, you've described yourself as drawn to underdog grapes like Riesling, Chenin Blanc, and others. Who or what got you hooked on those? Was it back to that Alsatian winery, or have there been other influences?
Terroir is probably like the ultimate influence for everything. That place was the biggest push into the deep end for wine knowledge I could have ever asked for. They have a program still called Summer of Riesling, where the only white wine by the glass is Riesling. And so it was 25 white wines, and somebody would come in saying, hey, I want a Chardonnay. Hey, I want a Sauv Blanc, whatever it was that they wanted. We had to find a wine that fit that within Riesling. And it was just such a cool challenge and a great way to force people to have the conversation and to drink outside of the box a little bit.
That's great. I love the challenge.
Yeah,
it's a creative way to do it, to show the diversity and range of Riesling. Now, let's talk about your Instagram account at Fresh Cut Garden Hose, which I just love. Let's first start with how did you start or when did you start, or why did you start illustrating tasting notes before we get to the name of the Instagram account?
I started it. I was studying for my certified somm exam, and I was having some wine, as you do, and I got a little bored, and I decided instead to flip through Instagram. A lot of it was following different wine professionals accounts that were showing bottles and tasting notes, and just had a moment in my wine haze that I think I could draw this. This is such a visual thing that they're describing. What would that look like? And then I just flipped over a tasting note card and threw it up. I wanted to saw the reaction.
That's great. And tell us how your literary agent who represented you to get this book to your publisher, how did she discover you?
Shout out to Adriana, she went to a wine bar in DC that I've been working with for years and years now. They reached out and had asked me when they were opening if they could buy some illustrations to wallpaper their bathroom. And so when she was there one time, saw the illustrations, thought this is super cool, reached out for a custom illustration. And then after that had said, have you ever thought about turning this into a book? And I said, oh my God, I've been trying to turn this into a book for 10 years. So it was a wonderful, just a happy coincidence kind of moment.
That's awesome. And I'm just curious, how long did the process take to get your book placed?
Once we had the proposal together, that was pretty quick. I'd say within a couple months, we were getting offers, which was really exciting.
That's great.
Yeah. But then it took maybe like a year and a half.
Yeah, that's standard. Yes, year and a half would be rushing it in the publishing industry, but it's a long pipeline. And so that bar in DC, that was called Revelers Hour?
Yes, if you're ever in DC, it is incredible.
Okay, another one to add to the list. Now, your first cartoon was a Vietnamese red from northern Italy you described as, never thought I'd see so many roses in one room, which is quite poetic. Where were you when you did that doodle? Oh,
so that note was written by Levi Dalton, who has a
podcaster. Yeah.
I obviously have tasting notes and as I drink and things, but what I loved was looking inspiration from other people. So I just came across his tasting note, and I thought that was really visually evocative, could be drawn relatively easily in a simple kind of way. I was just in my little room in San Francisco.
Okay.
After work.
Yeah. And it struck you. Yeah, that's great. And do you remember the first wine term or psalm speak that clicked for you and continues to be one of your favorite terms to use?
Yeah, absolutely. I think right when I was working in wine and starting to get into it, I was out at a wine bar kind of describing what I was looking for. I think with wine, there's so much flavor-wise that can be very subtle and very kind of hard to put your finger on. And so I really gravitate towards things that are very aromatic and really in your face, and that could be a little gratuitous in that way. And I was saying this, and the song that was helping me was just so something that was loud. And I said, oh yeah, loud. Exactly. And the way that it sounded like what it was, I love that. And I still use that one.
I want a loud wine tonight. Yes.
Just in your face
that sounds like
you
fun.
Can grab onto. Yeah.
That's great. All right, let's get to Fresh Cut Garden Hose for your Instagram account. How did you come up with that name, or what was the inspiration?
Oh, from the documentary Somm. I basically borrowed Ian Cobble's tasting note, that movie was so popular at the time that I started this, which was in 2015. And it would just seem to exemplify the whole vibe that I was going for of just ridiculous sounding, how ridiculous it can sound when wine professionals speak.
So he was describing a particular wine.
Yeah, he must have been describing a
having the smell of fresh cut garden.
I think it's been a while since I've seen it, but I'm pretty sure that would seem right to me. But
I wonder which brand of fresh cut garden hose. There's a lot of different hose
that's
brands
true.
out there.
That's true.
Couldn't he be more
Yeah.
specific?
Yeah.
And for those who aren't familiar, the documentary Somm, short for sommelier, it chronicles the journey of several, I think they're all men, trying to study for their master sommelier designation. So they're practicing and they're studying and they're tasting and they're coming up with weird terms like fresh cut garden hose. And do you know how he reacted when he found out about the name of your account, or has he? Are we springing it on him now?
I don't know that I've ever heard from him,
Okay.
or I hope he would be flattered.
Yeah, hopefully we didn't put a crimp in his hose.
Yeah, exactly.
He's immortalized his
Yeah,
words.
exactly. I don't know that I've ever done one of his tasting notes or that I had ever heard from him.
Oh.
But like I said, hopefully he'd be flattered and not offended that maybe I kind of took his term. He's obviously much more famous.
And what's the most misused tasting descriptor you've ever heard in relation to wine?
Sweet.
Sweet?
Yeah,
Oh, interesting.
People use sweet when it's not technically correct. I understand why it happens, but rarely are you going to encounter a red wine that is actually sweet. And most of the white wine that is out there, at least in the US, is dry. I would encourage people, as I do in the book, to use other words instead, like fruit forward, fruit driven, lush, juicy, like so many other things, because technically it's probably not sweet.
Yes, because technically, as you say, most wines are fermented to complete dryness. All the sugar has been turned into alcohol. If someone measured it chemically, there's no sugar, very little sugar left in from the grapes. But of course, if it's made from really ripe grapes that have these luscious, fruity, juicy aromas, people will associate it with sweet fruit and sweet, but it's not. It's, as you say, fruity. Yeah, that's great. Now, you say you used to chase the wildest, most roll your eyes tasting notes for material. What's a note someone wrote that was too pretentious even for you to draw, or one that you don't have to name names, but was there one that, oh my God, I can't illustrate that?
I feel like I think I did illustrate one where I was like, this is really maybe jumping the shark. Like,
okay, which one is that?
Like, he was talking about a bosomy cherry that was in a spearmint bodice, and there was petrichor, and there was like rocks in the oven, and it was just too much. Too much.
Wow.
To the point where it's like, what does this mean? What does this mean?
Bosomy cherry?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Petrichor, if anyone's wondering, is that nice smell you get after fresh rain has hit the rocks and you get that clearing and fresh spring smell. But that's quite the combination that this person was putting together. Okay. And you illustrated, how did you illustrate that?
I think I try to do it as literally as possible. I had a cherry in a bodice and in a corset. Yeah, in a corset, in the kitchen, taking out all the tasting notes. It just wasn't as, I think the ones that are hardest to draw, and the tasting notes in general, just if you're speaking to somebody that are like not as maybe grabbing, are just the lists of fruits, non-fruits, things.
Right.
I think for me, it's much
fruit salad.
Yeah, it's much more evocative and interesting if you're describing a personality, which I have a section of in the book that is a little bit more encapsulating and a little bit more relatable than that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Absolutely. Now, you write that wine pros can slip into somm speak or parcel tongue, trying to out-weird each other. And of course, parcel tongue is the fictional language of snakes in the Harry Potter series. Now, can you give us a flagrant example, or was that the one you just shared? Is there any others that come to mind?
I think that is the one that sticks out in my mind as just being like really wild. But there are I've seen like almost like haikus used as wine tasting notes. You find crazy things on Instagram.
Yeah. And your boss, for instance, described a wine as where a Moroccan whorehouse meets a coastal redwood forest in the spring. What was that wine? Or was he on LSD or something as well?
It is colorful. It was a Pinot Noir from California. Pei, I believe, was the producer. And was it correct? That's what she felt. I can't say if it was right or wrong, but I will say, even the more obnoxious tasting notes, don't you want to try that wine?
Yeah, it does make me curious.
It makes you kind of want to be like, I need to
Yeah.
know.
Am I going to get Moroccan Hornos or Algerian or something? But no doubt the winery has posted that tasting note on their website. Probably not. I don't know. Now, you were pregnant while you were writing this book and not drinking. Oh, my God. Well, congratulations for doing that. Do you think that changed the way you wrote it or the final book at all?
I think it made it tricky. Certainly, I started the drawings as like my wind down thing of like I would have a glass of wine and draw it, and that was fun. So having to dissociate that was a bummer. And then with the tasting notes that were like, I was really having to rely on my taste memory a lot, which when you're pregnant and your hormones are crazy is a whole other thing. But it would have been nice if I was trying to distinguish between terms that are big synonyms to be able to have a little side by side. Or I have drinking games in the book to help people hopefully try to understand terms. It would have been nice to be able to do those in real time to be like, oh yeah, like this is more velvety than silky and what have you. That would have been nice.
Yeah. I know when I was pregnant, there was the nausea, but then I got this heightened sense of smell too that made everything not as attractive as you might think.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that was happening to you either, or certain smells would be really strong and kind of distorted.
I feel like my senses
anyway.
were dulled. I don't know.
Oh, yeah? Oh, lucky you. I wished for that. Please stop the onslaught.
Yeah.
Now, your voice is witty, it's irreverent, it's kind. Was there a specific line, sentence, or illustration that the publisher pushed back and then you fought hard to keep it and it ended up in the book?
No, honestly, I was pretty lucky. They were super supportive of whatever I was going with. I think actually sometimes they maybe had to rein me in where I was trying to go for a joke and add a little extra sass onto something where it didn't need it, or maybe it was like borderline.
Right.
This could be interpreted as rude or whatever it was. And so we had to rein a couple things back, I think. But otherwise, they were like, no, go for it.
That's great. Great to have that support. Well, there you have it. I hope you enjoyed our chat with Maryse. Here are my takeaways. Number 1. How can a hospitality disaster completely change your approach to wine and service? As Maryse explained, she was working in San Francisco at a restaurant called Petit Crane, and they had booked out a private wedding reception, so a big deal for all of those attending. And she had the brilliant idea of surprising them with a splash of rosé champagne. Instead of using common sense, as she says, and setting the glasses down and pouring for everyone, she poured all the glasses on the tray, picked up the tray, and decided to hand them out. As someone was grabbing for one, trying to talk to her, the whole tray of 20 glasses landed and fell and smashed onto the bride, her brother, the husband, in front of her boss. The restaurant owner had been there to make sure that things were going smoothly. They didn't. So it's a good lesson and a good reminder not to take yourself too seriously, she said. And now that's her whole approach to wine. Number 2, when do wine tasting notes become so over the top that they stop meaning anything? As Maryse says, she used to chase the wildest, most roll-your-eyes tasting notes for material. So I asked her what notes someone wrote that was just too pretentious even for her to draw. And she said that she did illustrate one where it was kind of jumping the shark. He was talking about a bosomy cherry that was in a spearmint bodice, and there was petrichor, and there were rocks in the oven. I mean, what does that even mean? I think the ones she says that are hardest to draw, and tasting notes in general, are just lists of fruit. For her, it's much more evocative and interesting if you're describing or drawing a personality. And number 3, what makes natural wine like an unfiltered snapshot of a single moment? Maryse says that the smell she thinks of is from the cellar of where they were making Gewürztraminer, a natural wine, Gewürztraminer, which is already a very aromatic wine. It was their first attempt at making orange wine. It was fermenting, and the whole place smelled like roses. She says that the goal of natural wine is just to be the clearest picture of the grapes, the vineyard, and that place in that moment. So it's like if you took a photo, didn't put a filter on it, and that was the wine you were drinking. If you missed episode 378, go back and take a listen. I chat about whether formal wine tasting language strips the emotion out of wine writing with Master of Wine Sarah Heller. You won't want to miss next week when we continue our chat with Maryse. Do you know someone who'd be interested in learning more about how to sound wine smart? Please let them know about this podcast. Email or text them now while you're thinking about it. It's easy to find the Unreserved Wine Talk podcast. Just tell them to search for that title or my name, Natalie McLean Wine, on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, their favorite podcast app, or they can listen to the show on my website at nataliemclean.com/podcast. Email me if you have a sip tip question or if you'd like to win one of 7 drinks books I have to give away. I'd also love to hear your thoughts on this episode, or if you've read my book. Email me at natalie@nataliemclean.com. In the show notes, you will find a link to take a free online food and wine pairing class with me called the 5 Wine and Food Pairing Mistakes That Can Ruin Your Dinner and How to Fix Them Forever at nataliemclean.com/class. That's all in the show notes at nataliemclean.com/403. Thank you for taking the time to join me here. I hope something great is in your glass this week, perhaps a wine that you describe as just right for you. You don't want to miss one juicy episode of this podcast, especially the secret, full-bodied bonus episodes that I don't announce on social media. So, subscribe for free now at nataliemclean.com/subscribe. Meet me here next week. Cheers.